How's it going? I'm Erica, Caleb's behind the camera.
Hey!
And together we're SideQuestCrafting and we love all things fantasy. This love of fantasy has inspired us to make something truly magical and essential to the genre, potions. Now, we've never made potions before, and I feel like the logical thing to do would be to just make 1 or 2, but I'm indecisive, so we're going to be making 8. And we want to make a really cool base for all of these potions to sit on in the very end. That's not too much, right? Been staring at these same bottles for months. Been working on these 8 little things for months and this thing for months. All I wanted was to put some liquid in some bottles and watch it swirl around. So, the 8 potions that we're going to be crafting are health, magic, sleep, love, invisibility, flight, strength, and animal shapeshifting. We've already picked out our potion bottles, and they came from a couple of different places, like online, craft stores, and some antique shops. Like this old heart-shaped perfume bottle with a broken stopper that we're going to be using for our love potion. Health and magic potions are so iconic that we designed ours with little macrame holders to wear on the hip for on-the-go adventuring. And we actually went ahead and did the macrame already off camera, and we followed a lovely tutorial that we will link down below. And with that done, we're really excited to get started on the larger details of these potion bottles, like the crescent moon holding up the sleep potion, or the shields that are guarding the strength potion. And to make these details, we're actually going to be sculpting them out of DOS air dry clay. So let's get to it. Full disclosure, we did struggle with some of the details, especially the snake for the animal shapeshifting potion, which is why we don't have a lot of footage of it. I wanted to use armature wire inside the snake to give it structural stability and strength, but I had a hard time getting the clay to stick to the wire, and even aluminum foil coating the wire. I know there are probably more effective methods and materials for sculpting onto glass, but I just had a lot of this air dry clay and wanted to see what I could do with it for this project. If you have any tips or tricks for working with clay, please let us know in the comments. So we're in the garage and the shield is dry and done being primed. However, I don't love the quality of the finish. It's very streaky and requires lots of coats, which hides detail. So we have the other shield here ready to be spray primed. And I initially didn't want to spray prime everything because while it might work well with the shield, the bottles are going to require lots of masking to avoid getting paint on the glass. And that's a lot of work. But if we like the finish on the shield, then we're just going to suck it up, mask all the bottles, and spray prime those too.
Oh, let's go!
Okay, so it's obvious that the second shield is just way better. The spray primer has a way smoother finish and only required a little bit of sanding. So I'm now going to go in and mask all of the bottles, and I'm going to do that with a mixture of masking fluid and some tape and plastic wrap. Before moving on, we wanted to give a little love to our invisibility potion. To mimic the nature of invisibility, we frosted the glass to obscure the contents inside, leaving only big clear eyes as windows. To achieve this effect, we masked the bottle with tape, cut out the design, and brushed on a glass etching cream. While we wait for the primer to finish drying on those bottles, we're going to be moving on to the last bottle with absolutely nothing on it, and that is the flight potion. The biggest thing that we wanted for this potion was to have translucent, glittery wings wrapping around the bottle. And in order to do that, we're going to start by sketching out those wings. So here are the finished sketches, and I actually did some a couple days ago that I wasn't completely happy with. I'm way happier with this set, so I've gone ahead and marked the ones that we're going to be moving forward with. And in order to create our translucent glittery wings, we're going to be using epoxy. And in order to do that, we must first create a mold of the wings. So the next step is to transfer these sketches onto tracing paper. This will then allow us to transfer the design onto clay, cut out the shapes, and then create a mold for casting in epoxy. We're back in the garage. And before we make a mold of the wings, we're going to first brush a coat of UV resin on them because the mold is going to take on whatever texture is of the object that is being cast. So instead of this dull matte clay texture, we want a smooth glossy finish, and the UV resin is going to provide that. So let's put on our protective gear, brush some UV resin on these wings, cure them, make mold boxes, mix up our silicone rubber compound, and then cast these wings. Okay, so the mold is all poured and this little cake needs to sit for about 4 hours, and it's currently about 3 in the morning. So we will be back tomorrow to check on it. She says as she rips off the entire thing. Ah, there's a wing fragment and another. So it looks great. I'm really happy with it. I mean, it's a mess, obviously. There are a lot of spots that need touching up and there are a lot of broken wings, but all things considered, I think it turned out really great. We glued down the wings, and the reason for that is twofold. It was to keep the wings from moving around and sloshing while we poured in the mixture. And it was also there to try and prevent any mold from getting underneath the wings. Obviously that didn't work out so well. There's a good amount of mold underneath the wings, but that's an easy fix with some scissors and an X-Acto knife. So I'm just gonna go in and clean up the edges and touch up these molds. And then we will get to the fun part, which is actually mixing our epoxy mixture and pouring it and casting our wings for real. Okay, so it's been about 1 hour and we're gonna go ahead and demold these wings, even though they're not technically done curing yet. And the reason for that is because I lied. We're not actually using epoxy resin. We're using epoxy's cousin, polyurethane resin. This epoxy takes about 24 hours to cure, whereas polyurethane resin takes only about an hour or a little over an hour to cure. And normally that wouldn't matter, but it really works in our favor because the way that we're going to get these flat wings to wrap around our bottle is by interrupting the curing process. And what I mean by that is we're going to demold the wings when they're not fully done curing yet. They have to be hard enough for us to interact with and still flexible enough for us to wrap around the bottle where they will finish curing and fully harden in the shape that we want. And it's much easier to gauge when to interrupt them with a 1 hour cure time versus the 24-hour cure time. And we have already tested it, and at just about an hour, we can demold them, wrap them around various cylindrical objects, and let them finish curing. And we're gonna whip up a new batch, let those cure, and then we'll have our wings. Yeah, so let's get to it. Also, as a side note, I'm not going to use all of these wings. I made a lot, an excessive amount, and that is because I wanted variety and I wanted backups just in case anything went wrong. I'm gonna store all the extras, so I have them for safekeeping. They're not going to waste, I promise. Yeah. The last big thing that we need to do before moving on to painting and assembly is to build the base. Now, I've gone ahead and designed a sketch of what the base should look like. We're thinking a magical tree stump with multiple platforms for these potions to sit on. The base is going to be built out of XPS foam, and then those platforms are going to be topped with thin pieces of wood to ensure stability and provide a more natural look for the potions. And originally, we did consider using a pre-made wooden slab from the store, but creating our own just allows for more customization and room to hide electronics later. Plus, we're just better with working with foam than we are wood. So, hold on. Let's get to it.